I call the member for Noosa.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Look, you know it's a rarity for me to get up and oppose the business motion, and I appreciate with what both ministers have said. However, we aren't trying to undermine anything here, nor disrespect the efforts that have been made. However, what we've sought is an extension of time, that extra time, and that is to give voice to our people. This is the people's house, and all people should be heard from across Queensland. Now, look, I realise other electorates may not have some of the impacts that we are, including in the Noosa electorate, but they're on their knees, and we need that time to give them a voice. So actually, who are they? Member for Kawana has mentioned a couple, but we've got businesses that are told to close and aren't compensated adequately. We've got staff who, for every day they are closed, can't meet their rents. We've got businesses and people living off personal loans now for over a year, and they don't even know where to turn anymore. We've got spiralling mental health that now it's more than 2 months to even get in to see a mental health professional. Then you talk about the waitlist. We've got heartbreaking stories of constituents in agony who are now on an 18-month list to get operations they desperately need to keep working. We have had in my community for 2 years now an increase of 30% year-on-year in domestic violence. I wonder about all those that we actually don't even know about. We have a humanitarian crisis where our workers and long-term residents are couch surfing. They're living in sheds or wherever they can. We have staff walking out or on stress leave from the abuse they are receiving, or they're losing their long-held jobs in aged care and disability care because of their own personal choice regarding vaccinations. We had protesters before there was even protests down here, and today, again, we had them in Noosa. And this is regardless. Look, I understand that there are others, and there's other states and other countries that are suffering worse, but this is Queensland, and we've got to look after our people. We've got residents caught over the border, and I can tell you some horrific stories of what's happened to some of our women travelling alone. They don't even have the option to come back into quarantine. And yet, the NRL, and I understand the Premier has spoken about this, players and their families that are able to fly in from hotspots. Now, don't get me wrong, everyone loves the game. However, what we desperately need is consistency and equity. Consistency and equity. My community cannot get their heads around this regardless of explanations. The list goes on. Yet, I may not get to tell their stories because with the motion, the business motion, not the amendment, allowing limited time, including the consideration in detail on such as the Queensland app, Echo Holiday, personalised transport, and also the extra 2 deputy CHOs, I mightn't get that opportunity. You may not believe so much needs to be said, given that we have debated these same provisions before. However, for my community and maybe other communities from the MPs here, that misses the point. These provisions were debated before we are at this time point. We're nearly 2 years, coming up 2 years of this pandemic. Before we realised things like flattening of the curve was not going to be enough. Before we saw the real grassroots impacts and what is needed going forward. This is so important that we have time to talk about this. This inability to secure the extra time also demonstrates how the committee system is flawed, because even when we are there, regardless of our objections, we cannot influence the determinations. Queenslanders have worked through this pandemic together. However, for those that are not in jobs which still pay during lockdowns or are sufficiently supported, they're wearing the brunt in these efforts to keep Queenslanders safe, and they feel that we are no longer in this together. This has become an economic divide of the have and the have, or the secure and the insecure. Can you imagine how isolated, devastated and how let down they feel? So I think that is just reason to have extra time in the debate. So hence, they're the reasons why I oppose the government's motion, and I support the amendments put forward by the member for Kawana. Thank you.
The question is that